Hello. You are listening to Dads with Startups, a podcast about a couple of entrepreneurs who put family first.
Hey, Kevin.
How's it going, John? Good to see you.
Pretty good. So we got a short one today.
Yeah.
We've been usually gone about 40 minutes, and I think today we got about 20 minutes. So,
Give or take.
yeah, let's get right to the punch. How was your
Cool.
last couple of weeks?
Good, I'd say. I am excited and nervous because I have about 8 people who signed up for demos for the app.
Yeah, sweet.
And I just met with the first guy today, and and as luck would have it, the demo crashed even before I could show him. Like I was like 5 minutes before the call, like, oh, what am I doing wrong? And it was something that I was doing wrong. I just couldn't figure it out, and I was too stressed to figure it out. So unfortunately, I had a great conversation with him, and I think there's a good chance we can help him with this. Like, it was good to hear a lot of validation in the sense, without me having to lead him that way, that what he's using right now is just kind of old and archaic, and he really could use a nicer experience for courses. And so that was great, and they're on WordPress. So that was great, but unfortunately, I just had to say, well, sorry, I'll have to send you a screencast of it, and I tried to give him some other stuff that I could help give him recommendations about. But that was a rocky start, but
Yeah.
I'll be ready next time, and a good lesson as well. So, but I am excited. The sense of this is sort of like we're now turning on the faucet, and we're kind of like hoping things are gonna start flowing a little bit more. But we still have a ways to go. I'm just happy that people are showing interest in the pitch that we're making about here's why you should consider us. So,
Yeah. Cool. Sweet. That's exciting.
Yeah.
How many demos do you have? I mean, when are the rest happening?
They're all mostly next week. So I got this weekend to kind of work out the bugs, and I'm as I start to do the demo, as I'm looking at the system, it's just like this is probably something that you dealt with already, but it's like the first couple customers, there's so many little issues, and there's so little time, and everyone needs this yesterday, and so I'm definitely feeling now that the good thing about growth, but also the scary thing about like as we start to actually get people on this system, it's pretty nerve-wracking, and there's just tons of little things that just need to be fixed, and we just need lots of I would love to have like a good 5 developers that just do nothing but fix issues all day, but that's not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah. That's sweet.
How about you? What's going on with you the last couple weeks?
Oh man, a lot. Okay, so first of all, we moved into our new house. And that was really exciting and really stressful.
Wow.
We moved about 40 minutes away. It's funny, the guy who was buying our house, he had a fridge that was being delivered the same day that we were moving out. And we were like, that's cool, they'll just deliver it and not a big deal. Well, the guy who's buying our house showed up to receive the sign for the fridge, and we were just in the thick of moving everything out. We had some family members helping us move and everything, and some friends, and he just like started picking up boxes and carrying them out to the truck.
Wow.
And I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, well, we're just helping you. And
that's awesome.
I was like, this is highly unusual for sure, right? And then he picks up a broom and starts sweeping out the garage for us after it's emptied. And I basically kicked him out at that point. So I was like, I don't need you cleaning up our filth.
Right. That's nice.
So, but that was an experience. So we moved in. That was about a week and a half ago.
Wow.
And then the next day I jumped on a plane and flew to Scottsdale, Arizona for my first startup accelerator
Mm-hmm.
retreat with TinySeed. So I got to meet about 30 other founders in my batch and the batch before me,
Hmm.
and they provided us with a bunch of feedback and some workshops that we could work
Wow.
through and everything.
30 is a good
So
number there, good handful. Now, did you get a
yeah,
sense
so
of who everybody was? Did you find that you had some similar businesses to anybody that you came across?
there's a guy who's also kind of halfway in the government sector. He has some software that does it's kind of forensics case tracking software that he sells into police departments, but also into
Okay.
private sector forensics
Oh,
labs.
nice.
But there's just a huge array of people solving problems in all kinds of niches. It's really impressive, like the kinds of industries that people are able to get into
Mm.
and create programs for. I mean, it's a good time to be an entrepreneur, and there's a lot of options out there. For example, there's somebody who had some software for senior living placement agents. So, a person who works with a family and helping their loved one find a senior living center,
Wow.
that's the agent, and they created some kind of CRM software for those agents. So we're
Ah.
talking very niche here. There's somebody else who has some software for um, real estate photographers, not just any photographer,
Hmm.
but specifically real estate
How
photographers.
interesting.
Yeah,
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 you can only, it's hard to imagine what unique feature set is something that I guess a agent who places helps elderly people get connected to a nursing home or something, or a senior living center. Like, I can't imagine what they would need beyond a CRM, but that is cool. I mean, that shows you how many options there are, and how the need for this idea of software eating the world is continues to be truer and truer. On the other hand, it's interesting that it seems right now it's just like there's so much money going into startups. There's so much money going into SaaS, even as a sort of like a type of startup, and it's sort of like it does. People refer to it as is it a second .com era where we're developing software for everything, and then they talk about when the crash happened, how it was about 2 to 3 years of just like almost a ghost town where investors weren't willing to invest. And so it's kind of interesting for me to think about, like, is this a boom right now? Is this sustainable? Is all this going to be sustainable? But my hope is that something like the TinySeed model, if anything, is going to be able to outlast um, this notion of doing things bootstrapped, where your customers are helping you fund
yeah.
your growth as a company versus a VC or someone else. I think that's the most likely to succeed anyway.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much about being bootstrapped as it is about getting to profitability, because
Hmm.
when you're making profits, then if there are bad times, you can usually scale it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're making profits and running a business with a few people instead of just yourself. And in which case, I mean, as sad as it is to let somebody go for financial reasons, you could do that as a founder and kind
Yeah.
of scrape along by for a couple of years and then ramp back up when things are better. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm blown away at the talent out there and the kinds of companies that they're creating. So we just kind of hung out at this resort, and there was I mean, I don't know how much I can really I mean, it's pretty great. If any of you have a chance to apply to TinySeed, so far it's been a really good experience, and the relationships and the advice that we're kind of sharing with each other is really
Hmm.
valuable. um, and they, on the social side of things, their whole point was for us to just get to know each other socially, and just swap ideas. And so they had an open tab the whole time everywhere we went, and they had activities for us. So besides these workshops in the morning, they would take us to high octane go-karts. You live in the area, so you may know where I'm talking about, but we rode go-karts for one day.
Nice.
We had another day where I took a hot air balloon ride, so that was pretty fun. We went up a mile
That's amazing.
vertically up in the sky and kind of floated around for about an hour probably, and then came back down, and that was pretty cool. My wife was super jealous, so now I owe her a hot air balloon ride.
That's pretty
Yeah,
popular
she's
around
like,
here, I know. So it's I don't know if you guys have them as much up there, but I would think you guys have something like that.
yeah, they occasionally, we see them occasionally, but I did notice. I mean, everything is desert down where you are in Arizona,
Yeah.
right? And so they go up and then they just land wherever, and you can pretty much put
Yeah,
down any place because it's all flat and open, and there's not a lot of
that's
trees getting in
true.
the way and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it can
Yeah,
be
it's one of
trickier
the
if
more
they're,
popular things to do and when you visit Phoenix. That's fun that you got to do that. I
yeah,
haven't done it.
yeah. I never would have thought to do a hot air balloon ride, but um, yeah. And then we did some Top Golf, and I don't know, just the whole time we were just around other founders, and it was surprising from the minute I arrived how open and friendly everybody was. There was none of that kind of awkward initial start to a conversation. I mean, it just starts with like, "What are you doing for your business?" Because obviously we're all there kind of for the same reasons, and so conversation was really easy. So looking forward to the
Did
next
you go
retreat.
to yeah, did you go to MicroConf in years past? I can't remember
I have
if you
never
had.
been to a
Okay.
microconf. Yeah. Yep.
It sounds kind of that's the cool thing about MicroConf is that vibe that you're describing about people just being really open and friendly and supportive is also something that I've appreciated about MicroConf. And I'm sure it's even amped up quite a bit at this level because you guys are past a certain threshold and you guys are going to be part of a cohort. So I can only imagine it's even more close knit.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of people who'd been in the game about as long as me. Honestly, I think I was kind of in the middle, and there were people who still are not working full time on their company, and I would say a majority are, but
Hmm,
there were still pretty good number of people who are not yet at that point.
that's interesting.
Um, Hopefully, they will be at the end of this year after the accelerator program finishes out and everything. So.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, kind of what that requirement set looked like and if you had to be full time or not. And so that's interesting to
Yeah.
know that you just have to have some level of traction, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know all of the, I don't know what goes on behind the curtain.
Right.
But I would imagine, just like any investor, they want to see some growth, and that's really
Totally.
what's most important. So,
So
yeah.
what would you say, any ahas that you took back, or was it more just like kind of team building, camp experience a little bit more?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. So, my biggest challenge is, and going into this retreat was I need to hire somebody now. Like I've received a little bit of funding from TinySeed, and so now I need to put it to use. And so um, I've been thinking mostly about hiring the right people, and there's a couple of responsibilities I need to get done. And so I went in, hey, these are the efforts. We had a really good conversation at one point about just sales and marketing and growth. It's when I was in the hot seat, and so I basically said, hey, these are the things I want to do. I think I'm going to hire somebody. Um, but there was a good conversation around selling to government, because governments, the great thing about working with governments is they're very predictable. I know how much money they're going to spend in a year. I know when they're going to close because they have a strict budget cycle. So a lot of times I'll talk to them, and it's really great when I don't have to play this song and dance where I'm continuously checking with them, like, hey, when are you going to decide if you're going to use Civic Review or not? You know what I mean?
Right.
Instead, they're like, look, we want to use this. We're doing research right now. Our budget resets next year, and that's when we would be able to buy, So it's a very structured calendar year. And so
Nice.
the epiphany for me was to kind of model my sales efforts after the natural cycle that governments have. So we've got conferences in the fall. They're actually making decisions, right before their budget, when they're doing budget planning. And so budget planning for most municipalities is about the same time of year. So that's probably an ideal time to really hit the sales efforts. And then other times of year I can work on marketing and other things. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's interesting. That's a good point. I wonder, and so does that, in terms of who you think you'd be hiring first, does that look like a salesperson? Does that look like operations? Anything else?
Yeah,
Developer?
I've been looking into a sales and marketing person, somebody who I can continue to close deals with a small company. I'm comfortable doing that, but
Yeah.
um, I need somebody to help out with the initial sales efforts, like going to conferences and
Gotcha.
manning the booth and collecting leads from there. Um, but my part-time employee who's doing customer success just quit on
The one in
Monday.
Arizona.
So yes, yeah. And I loved her. She was
Oh
the
no.
best. And she decided to go to school full time and do something
Mm.
else with her life. Um, and I'm totally let down by that. So that really is the biggest pain point in the company, is the customer onboarding and setup and
Mm-hmm.
implementation, that kind of work. And so that has been bumped up to the priority. So I've opened up a job
Gotcha.
position, looking for somebody to um, help out with that, work with new customers and get them trained and set up and everything. So
Oh, I'm
yeah,
sorry to hear that.
I
That
know.
is a
Yeah,
bummer. Well, there's dynamite
it's
jobs.
life.
That's another thing. If you're looking for remote people, that might be an interesting thing to explore. I haven't hired anyone off of there, but I hope to one day. Because we are like yourself. I'm fairly sure you're looking for a pretty much remotely distributed team, right?
Probably. Yeah. Remote has worked out pretty well the last year. Um, but I don't know. I mean, there are criteria that, because these people are working with some personal information at the
Yeah,
government level, and
that's
so they
true.
have to pass a background check, and I don't quite know if that means they have to be a U.S. citizen to work
Mm-hmm.
on U.S. accounts or not, that kind of thing. So,
Right.
but I knew a lot of people who had found work from Dynamite Jobs, or I should say, found workers, found employees. Um, there were other founders with TinySeed who had used Dynamite Jobs. So,
Yeah, and I'm pretty
yeah.
sure you can. Maybe there's. I don't know. Actually, I don't know, but I'm assuming there's going to be a filter, or there is a filter to filter just U.S. based folks.
Yeah, I bet there
I'm
probably is,
thinking,
huh?
and there's probably
Yeah.
tons more people that are from the U.S. now. Now that COVID has hit. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. Glad to hear that TinySeed is moving along and you're enjoying that process. Sounds like a fun experience.
Hmm. Yeah. So, what are your goals for the next week?
Yeah, so I
What
think
do you
for
got going
us,
on?
unfortunately, my developer just let me know he's taking a vacation. I wish he had let me know earlier, but I just found out that he'll be taking a week-long vacation next week, just as I'm trying to bring people on. And thankfully, I have another developer. He's not as well, he's not as deep into the code. He's still kind of learning the product. So my hope is that I can rely on him for some bug fixes in the next week, and I have a bunch of them. So I'm just going to meet with him tomorrow night, try to get those all done, and then I'm going to see if I can get some signups, and right
Yeah.
now we have a free plan and we have a paid plan, but the free plan is sort of where I want to start people on. Just I want people testing out the system. I want people making, finding issues, finding bugs for us, and helping make it a little more stable. And just kind of seeing how it goes. It's one thing to theorize all this and another thing to put this out in front of people. So that's my main focus. And then I have a bunch of marketing efforts going into place. We're now writing 4 blog articles a month. I have my VA working on that, and that's his full-time project for the most part, with a few other things, is just pumping out articles that I think will bring us more highly converted customers, or people that are
Awesome.
more likely to convert because they're very specific to what people are looking for. And then my goal is to get on an app store in the next month and a half, or month. Let's say month. It's gonna be a little hard because of the holidays, but I think we want to get on the Weebly store, the Weebly App Store. And right now, that looks like a pretty good one. It's sort of a place where we could get our feet wet, but I think um, it'll bring in some customers through a new channel. And so this has to be, again, that. But to do so, I have to have the system a lot more solid, a lot more, the foundation's solid. And
Yeah.
right now we don't even have a checkout system, so we have to I have to find a system to integrate so that people can buy courses, right? So sell and buy courses. So that's kind of a big one. So that I have a
Yeah,
lot to
that
do.
is all in a month over Christmas.
Right, all in a month, of course. So I'll probably say my next couple weeks is just, try to make this system more stable will be my main goal, and see if I can
Right.
get a customer or two.
Do you get your hands dirty in the code? Do you work on any of that?
Well, that's a good question. I have really taught myself not to, and I've been good about it. And I would say that's something that have recommended to people, and I will recommend to people who listen to the show, is like, if you're a developer, try to stop coding. And I have found myself to be a lot more productive by doing so. The problem now is that because I didn't code any of this system, it really is intimidating for me. I'm just like, I don't know,
Yeah.
where I'm learning it a little bit here and there for emergencies. Like today I was able to fix a few things because I needed them for the demo. And so my coding background gives me that ability, but I really don't know where everything is. And so that's kind of the bad side of that, of not being involved in the code as much as I've been.
That's impressive. Coding is what I love to do, and I'm still highly involved in that.
Yeah, well, good. I mean, you're at a place
But
where it's working though for you, and I think if it's working, then keep it going, because it's nice to be able to have that. But I do see a lot of other founders, or yeah, founders that just, they never get to the sales. I'm in a mastermind with, or I've been in a mastermind with someone in the past who just never was able to do much marketing because he was so deeply involved in the code.
yeah. Cool. Well,
How about
I
you?
think
What
our
what
time's
is
up.
Oh yeah. Well, let's ask
Okay.
before you go.
So,
What are your
all
what are your
right.
goals for the next couple weeks?
Quick rundown then. So we got. I think you and I will be recording again in a week because this one's a little bit late
Yeah.
as far as recording goes. So I like this challenge. This next week, I have a number of leads that have come through that are they've come through saying, hey, we just got budget approval. Some of those municipalities that operate on a calendar year instead of a July to June fiscal year, they're coming back to me right now saying, hey, we're ready to move forward starting in January. And so
Nice.
I've got a pretty good list of implementation outlines that we write up for them. Our setup process is highly involved, very high touch, and so yeah, that's pretty much what most of my
Okay.
efforts are going to be on there.
So the goal being to create they're showing interest, like they're going to buy. They haven't bought yet, but you are going to offer them, here's what I would do if you here's what we would do if you joined us. Is that like an outline of that?
Um, I have a signed contract in hand already,
Oh, okay.
and then another one that they haven't signed the contract yet, but I would be surprised if they don't. And I can't actually invoice them until January. So we've arranged these
Gotcha.
circumstances where, hey, we're gonna set up our outline and then we'll just start in January.
Okay. So
But I know if I
they're
don't
ready to
do
go.
this next week, it's never gonna get done because of
Yeah.
Christmas. So
Makes sense.
yeah,
Cool. Well,
that's
that's
my goal.
great. Sounds like something to keep you busy.
Yeah. All right, Kevin. Well, we'll touch back in a week.
Yeah. Sounds
So
great.
let's play our new outro. Here we go.
Let's do it.
Thanks for listening. You can learn more by visiting dadswithstartups.com. Please rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/Dads with Startups. Until next time, bye.